This video will cover 12.1 and 12.2 in the government text, the worksheets, summary sheets. With 12.1 is talking about the organization of Congress, the party leadership. So you should be looking at this particular sheet right here about the organization of Congress and answering these questions. I'm going to run through this with you as well as the committee structure. So in the House, what we have is the presiding officer is the Speaker of the House, the most powerful person in the House of Representatives. In this, the party officers are the ones that, especially in the Speaker of the House is always the majority party, is always the majority, and he or she is assisted by the majority leader and the majority whip, whose functions we'll get to in a second. Then in the minority party, the minority leader and the minority, that should say minority whip there. That should say minority whip, not minority leader. That should actually say minority whip right there, as it would say on this side. In the Senate, you have the vice president presiding over the Senate, but he's a presiding officer, but he's not actually a member of the Senate. We'll get to his functions in a second. And when the vice president, who's often absent, only needed in certain circumstances, the president pro tempore steps in, often called the president pro tem. Then you've got the right party officers here who are actually very influential. The majority leader almost acting like the Speaker of the House in the Senate, the majority leader, and then he or she's assisted by the majority whip. And then they've got on the other the party in the minority leader, and minority whip. These are the party officers, typically the most influential members of Congress, especially if they're in the majority. So let's take a look at the questions that were at the bottom. What are their functions? I can pull that one up. It's coming over here. Excuse me. All right. So what are the functions of the Speaker of the House? Well, the presiding officer, and most powerful leader, far and away, presiding over the House sessions, has very heavy influence over the appointment of committee members, he or she, and will control the scheduling and referral of bills, whether they what committee they're going to, whether they're going to die, whether they're going to be referred to committee for further consideration. The vice president is the president of the Senate is, by the Constitution, actually the vice president is actually the quote-unquote president of the Senate as well, as a dual function, but mostly it's very ceremonial or functional, as outlined in the Constitution. Can recognize members, put questions to a vote, but cannot participate in Senate debates or speak on the floor in debates. And may only cast a vote in the event of a tie. Is really all that the Senate vice president can do. Again, the pro tem is the one who really takes his place, and that's the most senior member of the majority party when the vice president isn't around, or really that isn't that often. At the beginning of each session, and again when there's ties, is often when the vice president is present, or for ceremonial functions like State of the Union, for example. Okay. Now, the real meat of what gets done is the majority leader in both houses, especially in the Senate, because there's no Speaker of the House. So the majority is the Speaker's top assistant in the House. His job in the Senate really is the leader of the legislative agenda. And their job is to help the party's legislative program and steer important bills to passage. They're really the ones that set the agenda. The Speaker of the House, majority leader, helps set the agenda, and in the Senate, he or she is the one that sets the agenda, organizing support on key bills, and like I said, controlling that legislation in the Senate. By contrast, the minority leader then is the one in the the opposite side. Sometimes they almost switch roles. If during a midterm election, during an election, you got another party that gets into power, sometimes the minority leader or majority leader will switch roles. Let's use, for example, Nancy Pelosi from California. She at one time was the Speaker of the House because her party had won the majority in the House of Representatives. Sometime later during the Obama administration, the Democrats were the Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi then becomes the minority leader because her party then is in the minority. So the same is true of the current majority leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. He at one time was a minority leader until the Republicans took control of the Senate during the last election. So these two sometimes, the same person will sometimes hold these in different years depending on who's in the majority or the minority. They develop the criticism of the major parties' bills, trying to keep congressmen kind of working together in some form of bipartisan spirit. That's the idea, anyways. Making sure that legislatures are present for key votes. They assist floor leaders. They make sure legislators are present for key votes, as well as the majority and minority whips who assist the majority and minority leader and watch how members vote and persuade them to vote how the party wishes. They count and track votes for the floor leaders, deciding, hey, majority leader, we've got enough votes for this particular resolution or bill, or we don't have enough votes. Do we need to bring it up to the full body for a vote? Maybe we don't. That's kind of how the whips end up functioning in terms of their assistance to the majority and minority leader. Okay, and all of this then works through what's called the committee structure. I think I'll put looking at my time here, I think I'm going to put the committee structure 12.2 on a separate video.